And good evening, everybody. This is Political Playback, and I am back. Although, Simon O'Connor, I heard that last week was a top-rating show with Tanya Unkovic.
It was, which probably comes all down to Tanya rather than you or I. So maybe that's the idea for next week. Just Tanya.
Yeah, we will lock her in. We've got a huge amount to get through, although I did laugh at this comment that came in just as we were leading in. Everyone, please welcome in Mr. O'Connor and Mr. McCoskrie for Political Playback. Harrison Moore, we're going to get you to do the announcing, the MC announcing. It sort of makes us, sort of sound almost exciting, Simon, so that's always a treat, isn't it? Anyway,
Almost.
we've got a pile of stuff to get through, so let's get straight into it. Look, if you do want to comment, do it on our YouTube account, Family First. Make sure you like the video as well and follow our channel and get the alerts if you want them, so that you always know that when we go live. And also on Facebook, Family First's Facebook page, and then we'll see your comments come through on our screen. But you're welcome to natter on all the other platforms that we're on, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, what's the other one? Substack, and yeah, I think that's it. A whole lot of them. Actually, Tanya Unkovic just texted me in with a big smiley laughing emoji. So yeah, we miss you, Tanya. We really need some brains on this panel. Exactly.
Right. She knows it's true.
All right. Very quickly, images of the week. Simon, I'm keen to get your comments just on a couple of these. So firstly, this is a poll that was done on Stuff, and they just asked this question: who is your preferred Prime Minister? And look, it's kind of like completely misrepresentative, because Chris Hipkins is just the favourite PM of Stuff readers, and Chloe Schwarbrick's coming second, and then it's all the right-wing parties. Does that suggest to you that Stuff is a rabid left-wing newspaper?
Oh, it absolutely is. It's not the worst of the worst, but absolutely it is very biased to the left. And that's what this poll tells you. I mean, there's no way that half of New Zealand wants Chris Hipkins. In fact, no way that half of New Zealand wants any of those guys. So it's not really a poll about politics, but it's a poll which tells you all you need to know about Stuff and the way it leans.
Yeah, okay. And it's not scientific. Look, we acknowledge that, but at least it would give some indication of the readership and what they think. All right, second image is this. And Chloe doesn't look that happy. Is it because of what she's sitting on? And was that made by slave labour?
Well, you have to wonder. So that's the Palestinian scarf, often worn by terrorists, not exclusively. But first and foremost, look, she's always looking pretty angry. Secondly, you're right. I mean, where did the scarf come from, Chloe? How much did you pay for it? Who made it? How much fossil fuels were involved? But, if you step back from a little bit of that, this is the standards of Parliament continuing to slide. And actually, Jerry, as in Brownlee, needs to get control, because, okay, we're allowed now to drape flags and other symbols over the chairs, are we? Let's start with some others. You know darn well you'd have conniptions, but it's amazing what the Greens get away with in these sort of radical protest movements.
Yeah, because I thought you weren't allowed props in the house. And so this is a prop, isn't it? It's a, I mean, what stops everybody bringing, I mean, I could have my Liverpool blanket and my Liverpool shirt, could I?
Oh, look, they would stop you in a moment. But if it was a rainbow flag, in this case, a terrorist scarf, it's fine. But this is where you have rules and you're meant to enforce them. So really, to put it this way, Bob, we shouldn't be worried so much about what the symbol is. You're just not meant to have them whatsoever. But it's just the double standards which are entering into Parliament now.
Yeah. Okay. Third image of the week is this one. The New York Times blasted this on the front page of their newspaper without actually checking the veracity of it, and found out that actually this is a child in Gaza with a specific medical condition. And there's the brother next door looking very fit and well and healthy. But, here we have government saying two-state solution is the only way to go, even though one of those states wants to obliterate the other state. Hamas wants to obliterate Israel. But the media are just misfeeding misinformation the whole time, aren't they?
They are. I mean, obviously, what's happening in Gaza is terrible. What's happening to this particular child is terrible. But it's been grossly, and I would argue deliberately, misrepresented by the New York Times. Even someone like myself who's not medically trained looked at that photo and, firstly, you feel sad. But secondly, I looked and went, that's not starvation. There's some other issues there. But this is the New York Times lying. They allowed it to sit there for a long time. And now they've had a retraction, including the fact, as you say, look at the poor child's brother, who's not looking particularly starved. So it's just this false narrative. And I might just quickly add, Bob, Canada and France and the UK and all these others that are talking about the two-state solution, and now New Zealand, are undermining the ceasefire process, because lo and behold, to those of us who follow foreign affairs, guess what? Hamas has walked away from the ceasefire talks because they're getting what they want because of these countries. So well done to New Zealand and Canada and UK and France, basically causing more of a catastrophe through their virtue signalling behaviours.
Yeah, rewarding terrorism. The interesting thing about this is that New York Times had fessed up that they'd stuffed up, but they didn't do it on the front page of a following newspaper. They did it on some account that they had that only had 80,000 followers, despite the fact that their main account has 5 million or something. So it's one of these pretend apologies. It's not just the New York. It's just not just the media that's misleading, though, is it, Simon? I mean, the UN putting out information without verifying it, and the media are walking hand in hand with Hamas and information that they're putting out. Who would believe that?
I mean, the first thing we should say, it is very difficult to get accurate information out. You know, no one's really allowed into Gaza, no journalists and so forth. So very, very difficult. But what we are seeing is a reliance on Western media on what Hamas is saying. So they'll talk about the Gaza Health Ministry, but that's Hamas run. And one should be very, very skeptical of that. In fact, I think I just saw something before we came online that about 97% of Western papers reporting, or media reporting, sources from Hamas, and only 3% from Israel. And again, that raises questions in and of itself.
Amazing. Actually, I just want to put this comment up because I'd like you to comment on it. Actually, Catherine says we should not be picking sides. It's not our war. It's none of our business. What say you, Simon?
No, I don't think we do just hide away or isolate ourselves. I think, you know, moral issues are moral, whether or not they're here in New Zealand, Gaza, Israel, Ukraine, Kenya, wherever. I think we are and should speak into these topics, as well as obviously focusing on things at home. I don't think it's an either or.
Okay, one to focus on at home, our last image for the week, and it's a new study which comes out from Stanford in the US, not exactly a right-leaning MAGA university, and it has said that actually the COVID vaccine probably saved about a sixth of what was claimed. Are you surprised by that study, Simon? A lot of truth is starting to come out now that people are freer to talk.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, I'm not surprised at one level, but I'm making the distinction, of course. I mean, I don't have any grand knowledge or depth of knowledge in this area, but I'm not surprised. As you say, one, as time goes on, people are freer to speak. Actually, researchers are freer to go in and look at the information. But I think, too, we knew at the time what we were being told was quite shrill. And yeah, I think it's just really the best word. It was very shrill. There was to be no debate, as we well know. You're hearing that through the Royal Commission at the moment. I think you'll see more and more of this coming through, on top of other things around efficacy, how this has all started. So yeah, give us another 5, maybe 10 years. I know it's probably not optimistic for some. I think a lot more of the truth will come out.
All right, let's get into our second topic. And look, this electoral form, to me, it's just hysterical. Willie Jackson is accusing the government of rigging the next election. I mean, all they're asking is that we had 600,000 special votes because either people had just turned 18, which would be a very small minority, or 600,000 people simply couldn't organise in the 3 years leading up to the election to get elected. As I said on Daybreak, you know, do they turn up to the airport to check in and say, oops, I haven't got my passport, can I apply for it now? Or do they turn up to the movie theatre and say, oops, forgot my credit card, I'll just apply for it online now? I mean, in the reality of the big world adults, you have to do things in advance and you just can't rock up on the day. But the whining and moaning and complaining, it's just shrill. Is it just me getting sick of it?
No, look, I'm sick of it too. I actually don't think this was particularly dramatic from the government. It is hysterical by Willie Jackson, but I mean, basically, Willie is always hysterical.
Normal.
It is normal. It's like the day he's sensible and reasonable, I think I'll probably have a coronary. He also conveniently forgets all the efforts that he and the Labour Party have done over the years. I think the last election, was it the last? The one before that, everyone had to change their accounting methods. And at one level you go, well, what does that matter? But all of a sudden, political parties are exhausting enormous amounts of time and energy trying to adapt to new systems, which I think, if memory serves me right, Bob, Labor had already done and then dropped it on everybody else. We always can never forget the pledge card, of course, the fake spending by Helen Clark all those years ago, all the changes they make around donations. That's all the Labor Party trying to manipulate. But like you, asking people to enrol, it's not that difficult. In fact, a lot of it's done automatically. You move house and you redirect your mail, the roll automatically updates. It's nonsensical. That's the word I'm looking for. So we should just dismiss it, support the bill, and then go and vote.
So when they put restrictions on allowing when you register and all that, that's bad. But when you say we want 16 and 17-year-olds to vote and maybe younger, that's good. It seems to be not based on what we're doing, but it's who's doing it and what side. I mean, for Willie Jackson to say, rigging the next election, well, I think dropping the age to 16, 17 is rigging the election in favour of the left-wing vote. But probably this is a good opportunity actually to just give you a little bit of a advertising thing, and I'm just trying to find it. Do you want to just explain? You did a Substack on this particular issue. Do you just want to explain what you covered while I find the image?
It was twofold. The Substack that went out this week, one was just making very quick comment on the electoral changes to say, look, really, they're not that big a deal. I think you talked about passports. I mentioned that people are remarkably good at getting their lotto tickets or getting to the supermarket before 9 p.m. to get their Chardonnay, and yet somehow, as you say, within 3 years, they can't vote. But the other angle I was putting in, because the initial arguments against it was, this is not good for Maori. And the key part of my argument was that it's not good for Maori to become the vanguard. It's like the tip of the spear that the left wing use. Any topic or issue they don't like, it's not good for Maori. And I was just calling that out. There's always going to be times when a certain policy isn't good for Maori or Pacifica or young people or old people. But I was just noting in the Substack how often do you hear from the left and progressives? And it's always the same argument. And that's exactly what they pulled out from day one. Oh, it's racist. Like, give us a break.
All right, my apologies. I can't find it. I obviously didn't load the image, but there is a beautiful Substack written by Simon, and you can read all about that. One thing I did want to ask you about the electoral reform. So this is a bill that's going to go through. It's going to go through by virtue of the fact that 3 centre-right parties, New Zealand First, ACT and National, are going to support it. The only thing that I'm wary of is that, in my view, electoral reform should be more of a consensus. Would you agree with that? Because my concern is that, okay, Labor gets in and they just wham, okay, let's allow 10-year-olds to vote. We'll indoctrinate them early. In fact, let's let ECE kids vote.
So, yes, to your first point, you'd like it to be bipartisan, and it used to be at one stage, but we have seen over successive parliaments that whoever's in does sort of push their particular views. I'm not going to give you the exact distinctions, but there are some changes to electoral law, such as the ones we're discussing, which only need a 50% majority. There are others that require a super majority. So I think, and I'm happy to be corrected, but I think the change to the voting age, for example, would require 75% of Parliament. So there are elements of our electoral law which do require more than a 50% majority. So if we move from 3 to 4 years, for example, if the age of voting changed, that will require, in effect, both sides of Parliament, or at least National and Labour, to agree.
I found it.
Well, look at that. Yeah, the vanguard argument. Oh, beautiful.
That's on Substack. All right, let's get into the next argument. Topic, sorry, well, it is an argument. Are the gang numbers increasing or decreasing? National said that they were going to decrease them. And so there was a bit of gotcha politics by our intrepid reporter on One News. Let's just have a watch of their coverage and then I'll get you to comment, Simon.
Cracking down on these guys has been a key goal for the government.
Are definitely going to go after gangs. We're going to make their life a misery.
It's becoming really uncomfortable to be a gang member in New Zealand.
We're actually tough on crime.
We're clamping down hard on the gangs.
But it appears the gangs haven't got the memo. Instead, they're steadily recruiting. In October 2023, at the time of the election, there were just shy of 9,300 gang members, according to police. This month, a new record, there are now more than 10,000.
We are going after the gangs. We're making their life as difficult as possible.
Why are the numbers going up then if you're making life as difficult as possible for them?
We're not going to reverse what happened under 6 years of the Labor government. You saw a huge
about what's happening under your watch, right? Not about the previous government.
I'm explaining to you, we're not going to reverse what happened under a previous Labor government in 6 years, where you saw a massive increase in gang numbers.
Insisting it's good news that gang numbers are rising more slowly than they were.
We're definitely heading in the right direction.
Shouldn't they be falling though? Shouldn't the overall numbers be falling if you're bringing in good policies?
Well, they are falling.
They've gone up 700.
Well, we've stopped the rate of increase.
These numbers show that Christopher Luxon has failed to make things better. We have more new gang members than more new police under his watch.
Okay, is National failing at the gang thing, or, as they argue, is this simply that they're getting better at identifying who are gang members, even though the gang members aren't wearing patches? So how do we identify them these days?
Yeah, well, there's a bit of the segment that went on with a supposed expert saying, well, now that they don't have gang vests, how do we know? Well, look, police have never relied on someone wearing a vest to work out if they're a gang member or not. The intelligence unit uses other means. But this is embarrassing for the government. It's unfortunate for them that it is going up. I don't think, though, it's strictly the government's fault. I think they are getting tougher on the gangs. I mean, you are seeing a lot more of these gang members being interdicted, obviously the gang patch ban. But I think there's a wider cultural and societal issue, which, it's going to take any government a long time to turn around. You have a lot of young men in particular who are longing for meaning, belonging, and are joining these gangs. And we still have an issue with crime. We have an ongoing drug problem in this country, which the gangs are benefiting from. So I think that's going to be harder to address. But as I say, it is embarrassing for the government.
Okay, another issue that came up is apparently this whole thing around, there's some laws around collecting eggs and watering plants. Once again, some interesting media coverage, seemed like gotcha politics from the reporters, but once again, a little bit like our previous story, the politicians aren't coping too well with the questions. Have a watch.
Regulate egg collecting on farms.
Look, I don't want to regulate that. What we have at the moment, though, is essentially a prohibition on kids being able to work on farms. To actually make our laws far more overt, make them very obvious what kids should and can do on farms, because at the moment the law says that they can't be there.
How many cases of child exploitation on farms have there been?
Look, I'm not aware of any of those.
Do you know if anyone's ever been prosecuted, any farmers been prosecuted for their kids collecting eggs?
I'm not familiar with that, no.
There's been a test case for this, though. What's the point of this? Has anyone tested the current laws around it that's forced you to do this consultation?
Look, I think we've got the laws wrong if the laws don't reflect reality. That's the first thing. Our laws should actually be good.
Have they been tested, though?
If we haven't had prosecutions, that doesn't mean it's a good rule.
I think this is a policy in search of a problem.
I hope there will be good common sense. That's what this government's about. She was talking about, farmers doing some stuff that's a bit crazy.
We have kids on farm. If they are working and doing chores on farm, that we are actually teaching really good safety standards from a young age, so that then when those kids do grow up and start working on farms for themselves, they've seen good, modern, safe practices on farms, and they can operationalise it.
What are the safety concerns with picking up eggs, though?
Well, I'm not aware of any safety concerns picking up eggs.
So, how are they going to learn what good safety is from picking up eggs? Well, look, that's what you targeted in your press release today.
Look, that was just one example that was given to us from MD about, what is a light chore on farms.
Farmers are more than capable of telling their kids which chores they can and can't do. I think we should just leave that to parents, frankly.
Oh, lovely. I just love it when they say it's a law looking for a problem. I'm thinking conversion therapy law, and we'll come back to that one. And, leaving it to parents. Thank you, Chris Hipkins. I'm sure he voted for the anti-smacking law. Anyway, what's this issue, Simon? I mean, is there a law saying that kids can't do eggs and water plants on farms?
I think it comes out of the health and safety changes, which I think actually were brought in by a national government maybe in 2014. So this is the health and safety laws, which, like a pendulum, were very light. Of course, before Pike River, the tragedy which happened there, the new health and safety laws, as I said, like a pendulum, switched out the other side now. And so it does sound like that there is some work that has been done, or regulations or expectations that there's health and safety around your child watering plants or collecting eggs, as they bad pun for the day, eggploitation. Sorry, I just couldn't help myself. Yeah, that's right. Bring back Tanya. No. So it sounds like it's already there, but the stupidity is at least twofold. One, that it's even there in the first place. You think about all the real health and safety issues, and we've had whoever it is, Health and Safety New Zealand or WorkSafe, pondering the dangers of collecting eggs. But then secondly, as that video showed, the politicians, including those who are leading this, why are we even talking about this? Just get rid of it. You don't need to consult. You don't need experts. You don't need tens of thousands of dollars spent. Do, in fact, what Chris Hipkins said, and I'm with Chris on this one, it's just leave it to parents. This is the ever-encroaching hand of the state to tell you what you can and can't do right now, down to the safety of your children watering plants. If I could put it really simply, Bob, to the government and those officials talking about this stuff, bugger off.
Did I hear you agreeing with Chris Hipkins?
I did on this one. I'm with you. He's take note, day and time.
31st of July, 5:24. Simon O'Connor agrees with Chris Hipkins.
You're right to point out the inconsistencies in what he's saying. That little bit at the back, it's up to parents. And that's probably the wider issue, which certainly got my goat on this, is just leave us as parents and families alone. Just keep out. But they can't help themselves, as you know better than I do, Bob.
Yep. Okay, there was some good news in the media earlier this week, but I found that only one mainstream media outlet reported it. And it was this: Maori have the highest increases in life expectancy. Now, this was the graph. I went out and searched the graph. A bit confusing. It's a terribly put together graph because the green and the red is the latest figures, and the yellow and the dark blue are the earlier. It's so confusing, isn't it? But the key thing to note is that there's a upward trajectory, so people are living longer, and it's happening in all ethnicities. Now, you'll see there that Maori are about the same as Pacific, but Maori have had the biggest increase. So, shall we say they've caught up to Pacific? But it's still a good news report. Basically, there's been a good high increase in life expectancy. Why did only one media outlet report this? Is it they only report bad news about Māori?
Well, in many ways, I think the answer is yes. This doesn't fit the narrative. I mean, let's be clear. Māori mortality rates are, or rather average age of death is still lower than the total. So there's still work to be done. But actually, it is a good news story that it's increasing. They are living longer, and this is a positive, but that does not fit the oppressor narrative or the oppressed narrative, which mainstream media, academics and others are keen to run. So no, you won't find them celebrating successes like this. They want to continue to complain.
Okay, gosh, we're doing great pace. This is fantastic. Winston Peters is back on the trail. I think he's campaigning already, and I still think that it was the smartest thing he ever did was say that he would be Deputy Prime Minister for the first 18 months. So he's now free to campaign full on without the kind of expectations of the Deputy Prime Minister, although I'm not sure David Seymour will follow that anyway. But once again, Winston Peters has gone back to the immigration issue after looking overseas, and so you had a bit of a chat. Let me just play that. Interested to hear what you think of this, Simon.
In 2003, I was reading back on a speech of yours. You said, quote, 100,000 New Zealanders are out of work, yet we are bringing in tens of thousands of immigrants, but we've still got about 140,000 arrivals every year or over the past year. Do you think we're giving New Zealanders a good chance to get New Zealand jobs?
Well, if you'd have given that speech in 2023 more prominence, we'd have had far more members and we'd be in control of the circumstances now.
So do you think when you come round to the 2026 campaign, immigration and the potential, the welfare is going to be something you're more vocal about?
Yes.
Well, we've always been vocal about it, but you need the numbers to be able to change policy. But if you look around the world, this is an alarming development you see in Spain, dare I say it, in Germany, recently in Ireland, many cities in England. People are concerned as to where their countries are going. And New Zealanders are no different. They are more acutely aware of the problem issue we're dealing with here than the politicians are.
So you think New Zealanders are more concerned now about immigration than in the past?
Yes, I do.
And what do you think is prompting
Well, they've
that
seen the
concern?
international circumstances of careless immigration policies, transforming cities, changing centuries of development and social life, and people feel at risk because of it.
What overseas countries would you look at that are having those sort of effects?
Well, if you haven't been following the news, in places like Ireland and cities in England where all sorts of concerns are growing as to people who have come there who don't salute the flag, don't salute the values of the country, don't salute the people who were there before them, don't respect for the right to have your own religion. These sorts of things are values that we need to stress. If you don't subscribe to that, don't come here.
Okay, so probably not surprised at the general messaging from Winston. It's not different to what he's been saying. In fairness, he's been consistent over the whole last 2 to 3 decades, hasn't he, on this messaging?
Yeah, he's often gone to the immigration card. It's funny, to me, it doesn't feel as intense at the moment as it was a decade or two ago. Like, again, he's often played this card. I think it is, as you said at the start, it's very much him beginning to electioneer. I think he's looking overseas and drawing lessons from those countries. It's why he's challenged a number of the social or cultural issues. I think in this case, what New Zealand's experiencing is not akin to what you're seeing in the UK or Ireland or whatever. But I think he's acutely aware that many New Zealanders are watching via the news what is occurring there with great concern. And he's sort of hoping that that will rub off into New Zealanders' concerns here. But again, I don't think we have the same level of problems that we're seeing in the UK. I suppose he will massage his message to sort of say, well, let's not go in that direction. But to me, Bob, he's very much drawing at the moment from concerns overseas rather than particular concerns of New Zealanders right back here.
Well, as a smart politician, you would also be looking at the polling as it affects those who are speaking up similarly, which is Nigel Farage in the UK, Donald Trump, obviously. You also, before Canada completely threw it, what was his name? The apple-eating guy. He was saying the message, same as in Hungary, same as in Italy. I mean, they have actually succeeded on that messaging about the changing of the culture because of unmitigated immigration and the lack of assimilation. And I think people understand that messaging, don't they?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think he's tapping those concerns of overseas. I don't think they're exactly replicated here in the same intensity. I know when we were over at ARC earlier in the year talking to, you mentioned a few countries, even talking to different ones from Scandinavia, similar thing to say, actually, there's just too many people bringing in a series of values, perspectives, and unfortunately a lot of crime, and also being integrated into society at great cost. This is one of the great tensions in the UK, is that all these illegal migrants are being funded by the UK taxpayer. They're being put up in hotels and social housing at the funding of taxpayers, and the taxpayers themselves are not getting the support they want. So it's more complicated overseas, but again, I think Winston's tapping that concern and applying it here.
Okay, and people are agreeing. Dee says he's following President Trump. Princess Adora says, I'm voting for Winston next election. First time for me. Diane says, Winston has always tried to put New Zealand first. Shame other politicians don't. But Dee says, no, I'm not falling for it. And Sunny Side Up says, I'm assuming he's seeing the UK and Ireland as what not to do. So, quite a bit of agreement on that one. All right, let's keep going. Gosh, we're doing great time here. Well, is this a media beat-up? Apparently, Christopher Luxon turned up to a premier netball game and he got booed, although some people were questioning whether it was actually the boos were aimed at him or the person who was next on, which was it someone from a bank or something? I did see some commentary suggesting that there was another guest on the podium that could have been booed as well. But just before you comment on this and whether, basically this is a signal that Christopher Luxon is toast, I did just do a little bit of research, Simon, you'll be pleased to know. And I managed to find that, Jacinda Ardern was heckled at Field Days a couple of years ago. John Key was booed off the stage at Big Gay Out, shouldn't have even been there. In fact, I saw that Chris Hipkins got heckled at an Auckland market walkabout. So, gee, lots of people get booed. So is this all over for Christopher Luxon?
No. I mean, look, so no is a short answer. It's not over. It is slightly unusual. Again, he's only halfway through the first term. It's not pleasant. I think, the smart people would reflect on this. I hope he does reflect on this, that you are being booed at a netball game. Kiwis, we don't tend to do that. The examples you just use of Ardern and Hipkins, it was post-COVID, great tensions. They'd been here in those offices for quite a while. So I don't want to over-egg it, though. It's not good. I think Luxon's going to have to make sure he what we talk about quite often, he's got to find a way to connect with the voters, because events like that can take on a life or a narrative of themselves, which is part of the reason the media barreled on in. I remember seeing it that night and saying to Rachel that all the stories about the government that TV1 was running was just putting the boot in. Didn't matter if it was health, crime, this. So again, like so many things, it's not good. They shouldn't, though, be panicking. It's like, okay, we clearly have some work to do here.
It's not putting the boot in, it's putting the boo in, Simon. I did actually just look at the dates. I mean, this is November 2022. This is just before she resigned. So this was about emissions. And this one was, this was the election walkabout. So, I mean, this is part of the competition of elections, isn't it? I mean, remember, we had all the issue around Donald Trump turning up to places, and was it cheers or was it boos? I mean, even Israel Folau, when he played rugby, was it cheers or was it boos? I think who knows? And I think there's going to be some people who agree with you and some who disagree with you. So I'm not quite sure why is this a new story. But like you say, it's putting the boo in, isn't it?
Look, it is putting the boo in. Thank you. I think this is probably also the first time. As I say, there is a little bit of a difference between being a new prime minister, not even served a term, versus the other two examples, which doesn't make it necessarily better or worse, just a different dynamic. Jacinda and Chris Hipkins had become very unpopular at the end of their term after they had mishandled COVID at the end and other decisions they were making. But it's never pleasant. Never pleasant to be booed. But as we keep saying, the media delights in running such stories.
Okay, now can you explain this one to us? There's a new think tank which has come into existence. It's called the Integrity Institute, and it's run by Bryce Wilkinson, who was a commentator. Unfortunately, my experience with Bryce, I had a lot of respect and thought that he was basically providing a really good summary of news items that was happening each day. But as I pushed a little bit and said, why aren't you giving coverage to some of the right-wing commentators as well as the left-wing commentators who just had to sneeze and they'd be included in his daily email that he would send out? I found he just wasn't willing to give it a go. You got quoted a couple of times. The only times I got quoted was when I emailed him and pushed back and said, why aren't you including some right-wing commentators in your daily summary? Now he's gone and formed this Integrity Institute, but you've done a little bit of research here and there's some major red flags.
Yeah, there are. So it's Bryce Edwards, not Bryce Wilkinson. I think Wilkinson's an economist. Yeah, Bryce Edwards. Yep. Victoria University academic. Leans left, admittedly leans left. He's quite proud of that, but actually he's done, I have to say, some good work. And you're right, I've enjoyed the daily digest that he puts together, although over time it's become more and more selective, as you've noticed. But he's now formed this Integrity Institute, and its basic purpose or raison d'etre is to focus on lobbying in New Zealand. That's its stated aim, which initially sounds interesting, except the Integrity Institute really is a lobbying firm itself, really. It's got its set of issues. They are well funded by a very wealthy couple whose name slips my mind, but they lean very left, very obsessed on climate issues. So there's two major sets of problems here with the supposedly called Integrity Unit. So the first is, and actually it was Cam Slater and David Farrow who did some digging. They found the organisation's charter. So just like Family First or any charity or incorporated society, you have to have documentation. And when you read it, the Integrity Institute is to push certain topical agendas, and it's also to target quite explicitly those that they believe are opposed to them. So everyone from the Maxim Institute to the New Zealand Initiative, Taxpayer Union, part of what Bryce has been paid to do is to try and find dirt on them, to put it really simply, which is pretty shocking when you think about it, because he's not been asked in integrity's sake to focus on Greenpeace or Amnesty International. No, it's anything that's to the centre right. Oh yeah, wouldn't touch that with a barge pole, would they?
And actually, Sue Reed, one of our panellists on Straight Talk, she says Bryce Edwards penned Helen Clark's bio. Is that correct? Or, no, it must be correct. Sue said it.
Sue said it. I was going to say, don't ask me.
She's in the book industry. She would know. But yeah, okay. So that suggests that that sort of confirms our concerns, doesn't it?
Well, it's just exceptionally biased. I mean, every organisation is going to have its perspective, but the Integrity Institute, by its name, is trying to say, no, we are above this politics. We are above lobbying. We're here to hold them to account. Where actually, no, they're pushing their own agendas, particularly around the likes of climate change, and they're out to basically try to get rid of lobbyists or groups they don't like. And that's the second part of this, Bob, is they've paid newsrooms, so one of our news channels or online channels, they've paid them money to research areas approved by Bryce and the Integrity Institute.
Wow.
So they've effectively lobbied and paid off newsroom to run stories that suits the Integrity Institute. And because they're so focused on the likes of climate change, the first that newsroom's gone after is farmers, and attacking all these supposed lobbyists, like Federated Farmers and others. Oh my Lord. So it's all, again, quite ironic, double standard. The Integrity Institute, their donors are allowed to lobby, but other groups are not.
Okay, and Catherine says, sounds like he'd be friends with Kate Hanna from the now defunct Disinformation Project, which would probably be true, wouldn't it?
They're all cut from the same cloth in a way. It's that, again, it's that galling double standard. They are lobbying themselves while saying lobbying is bad. Then they say these lobbyists are good, like Greenpeace, like Amnesty International, like Action Station is good. Ironically, Newsroom, again, no journalistic integrity. They're basically just being paid to do, because they're desperate. By the way, Newsroom takes money from Auckland University as well. If you ever read their stuff and wonder why Anne Salmon and other academics get written up, it's not because of anything of note, it's because they're paid. Newsroom makes money. It's just so crooked. It really is just totally crooked.
Okay, the fight over passport covers. So the government has announced that rather than the Maori and then the English, it's going to be English then the Maori. The New Zealand Herald did a editorial, very sarcastic one, and they said, quote, "Let's applaud the government's focus amid the cost of living crisis, the record wait times in healthcare and a beleaguered housing market. We've taken a bold stand on passport wording." Now, when I read that, I thought, well, okay, New Zealand Herald, I'm just going to do a little search on your website for when you called out the government back in 2021, the Labour government led by Jacinda Ardern, when they previously changed it. And did you also say, well, in the middle of a housing crisis recovering from COVID, 2021, remember, here you are tinkering with the covers of passports. Guess what, Simon? I couldn't find the article, but if anyone can find it, please send it to me.
Yeah. Oh, look, no surprise. I mean, again, it's the double standards. It's why, and we keep coming back to this theme, it's why, we're seeing a breakdown in social cohesion. It's why trust in media is declining, because they're just full of it. If the Herald's right about, the government should be focused on other things, well, the same's true of the Herald. Aren't there other bigger stories you should be following? Are there not other issues that you could editorialize? No, they chose instead to focus their time writing about passports. So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and the Herald's just sort of hoisting itself on its own petard there. Personally, I don't really care. It could be one way or the other. Whatever's the cheapest way is good. But, we have to recognize as well, English is the lingua franca of most of the world. Ura whenua means nothing to most people, even in New Zealand. So we should have a little bit of, respect in that space. But overall, I mean, really, who cares? Except the last point, sorry. governments will always be tackling big things and smaller things as well. They can do both.
Yeah,
they can do both.
And I think, my argument has always been that if they want to add the bilingual, if they want to add the Māori translation, that's fine. But I think we should also always be considerate of the fact that when you're traveling internationally, people are going to relate to the English translation. I mean, it's a bit like when I go overseas, if I go to a conference, I'm going to be labelled as a New Zealander. I'm not going to be an Aotearoan. And that's simply because we haven't got to that recognition point overseas. And I think we just need to understand that, it's like when international people come to New Zealand and they're trying to find the Ministry of Health and where is it? What's Te Whatu Ora and all these names that have been changed. I just think we need to be considerate of international guests as well.
I think that's a part of it. I mean, I don't mind the bilingual side. I've always said I actually quite like what the French and English in Canada. They're both there. They're the same size. They interchange. It's respectful. Here, you're seeing an attempt. It's that decolonisation narrative, which is why the New Zealand Herald and all the other woke groups get upset about this, is because they want to replace English, in this case with Maori. Now, that's not going to work for a number of reasons, but it hardly is going to put New Zealand in a good place engaging with the rest of the world. And part of it, as you say, is courtesy. Most of the world speaks English, whether you like it or not. And so we should be trying, if we want to be a tourist mecca and attract more students into education, we're going to have to embrace that language first and foremost.
All right, if you can hear the sound of sobbing, it's the Human Rights Commission, and they are struggling to find a single complaint of conversion therapy. They can't rustle up one complaint. We got our official Information Act request back, where we asked them about how many complaints had they received. They had received, I think it was in the last 12 months, they'd received 2, but none of them had become formal. There's been no referrals to the police. As Chris Hipkins rightly said, it was a solution looking for a problem. Thank you, Chris. Leave parents alone, and let's allow biology to take place, and for vulnerable kids be able to get counselling, and for those with unwanted sexuality and gender issues to be able to get counselling if that's what they so wish. Simon, I just honour you because you were one of 7 MPs who bravely voted against that stupid law, and you paid the cost for it in terms of just the vile stuff that you were called and received. But at the end of the day, you've been proved right. It's a law looking for a problem.
Oh, it is. Oh, no, it was a fascinating time, I have to say. Sort of a real spike in death threats and rape threats, which, of course, I don't generally talk about, and I only mention in passing because, of course,
I thought those only went to female MPs, Simon. What's going on here?
Well, I mean, that's part of why I quickly mentioned it, actually, is, one, the supposedly kind, caring, diversity crowd are some of the most aggressive and abusive, but also people like myself are not running off like Kois Roebuck and others to the media crying victim. We just don't play that game. Look, the law was never really about conversion therapy happening, and the OIA proves that. There are just no cases. What people were told was effectively a lie. What it was about, and it may still be happening and probably is happening, is that chilling effect, whether you're a psychologist or a GP, a nurse, a counsellor, a priest, a pastor, a parent, to chillingly stop you even wanting to have these conversations. That's what they're designed to do. These are laws, and look, Victoria has it in the Australia, it's now in the UK, deliberately designed to force a singular viewpoint and to try and scare anyone off having these conversations. And look, the best thing I'd suggest to people is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid at all. Keep speaking out.
And as I said in the media release, conversion therapy is still legal in New Zealand, but it's only if you push people towards LGBT, and it's happening in schools via Inside Out and what do they call themselves? Sexual Health Aotearoa, which is Family Planning Association. They've changed their name because we poison the name of family planning so much that they are now under the mask of sexual well-being. But they are anything but that. And I'm still receiving contact from parents that the RSE program is happening in schools, and people need to be aware. If you want to know the content, go to sexeducation.nz. Sexeducation.nz. Right, we had
and talk to your kids, if I might say. Sorry to jump in, and also talk to your kids. There are still too many activist teachers out there who are more than willing to keep pushing these issues. And as you rightly point out, Bob, it's so hypocritical, because conversion therapy was all about converting people in one direction and never allowing conversations in the other. And they will hold on to this as hard as they can. But you talk to your kids, that'll give you intel of what the teachers are telling them.
All right, just before we wrap up tonight, because we've just done such great time, we just want to show you our very new promo ad, very short one, but very exciting. Have a watch.
Family First is bringing you conservative conversations, commentary and content. And now you can access these important discussions in the format that you prefer. Watch, read, listen. You can watch our content on our website, familyfirst.nz. Simply click on the Watch tab and you'll see all our various programs that you can view. You can also watch these across our social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, TikTok, Threads and Blue Sky. Everywhere. If you'd prefer to listen while you go about your daily activities or are travelling in a vehicle, then click on the Listen tab and the latest content is there for you to listen to. You can also find us on Spotify under Family First NZ. And if you prefer to read our commentary, then click on the Read tab. We're increasing the frequency of our written commentary, focusing on the latest research and analysing the current news events which are relevant to families and society. We provide the insight and context which you won't get from the mainstream media. We're also now adding the full scripts of Family Matters and McBlog under the video link in our website, and also written summaries on our live stream shows so that you can read and digest the material at your own pace. Consume our conservative conversations in the way that best suits you. Watch, read, listen. Go to familyfirst.nz and join the conversation.
Is entitled Beyond the Binary. Oh, sorry, was my mic not on then? Was I just yakking for a whole lot of time?
You were. That's all right. It was, it's been the highlight of the show.
You didn't even signal to me. There we go. I wondered why Gordon was trying to turn my audio on. I'll start again. Simon's been very busy writing some stuff, and just while he thinks about what to write, I was just kidding there. I highlighted the Early Childhood Education magazine that is going around the industry at the moment. Beyond the Binary, Kayako Views, teacher views of the gender spectrum in early childhood education. If you want to know why you should be very wary about early childhood education and you need to check what your kindy and your early childhood teacher thinks about gender and sex, and whether they think they're two separate things, and whether they want to teach radical sexuality and gender theory, then go and watch that McBlog. That's on our website, familyfirst.nz. Thanks for fixing that up, Gordon. Simon, you've been writing. Quite a few things you've been writing, and I know that you've had your Substack as well, but anything on the website that you wanted to highlight?
I just think it's all good stuff. I mean, look, there's just no shortage of up-to-date content now. I mean, as you've grown the organisation, Bob, there's just so much more, and great search functions as well. I'm learning that myself from you. I raise different topics, and you go, "Oh, we already wrote about that." So, if people go along, whether they want to watch something, it's all the podcasts, or read. There's the research. Look, it's just a great resource. But there's just no shortage of stuff at the moment, and I've written so much I've forgotten what the last one I did was.
It must have been riveting. Hang on, stand by. I will just go to Family First and click on read. And your latest commentary was on New Zealand doctors raising red flags about cannabis use and interfering with cancer treatment. And
That's
also,
right, a New Zealand doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, and also 3 major warnings within the latest euthanasia review. You did a little commentary on that. So look, those are all fantastic things to look at on our website. We're just about running out of time. I can't believe I turned that mic off. That's the type of stupid thing you do, Simon.
That's a Simon thing to do.
The Forum on the Family is now less than a month away, and we've got an amazing lineup of speakers. And we're also recording an episode of Straight Talk with a live audience. And these 4 ratbags are going to be on the panel. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So, I'm just checking comments. Okay. No, Kayako. Jackie Kayako is Maori for teacher. You'll see that a lot in some of the commentary. All right. Any closing thoughts there, Simon? We're out of time. Wasn't quite as good as with Tanya last week, but I think we've improved slightly.
I'll just mute my microphone so I don't have to impugn myself.
Okay, we'll be back next Thursday night, team. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.